Chapter 1481. Accompanying them were a few students from the devil class. It was also because of those students that they managed to contact Kitty Lee with the mercenary group badge. Only the few of them could rush over in time. Yi Ching Luo. Instructor Luo was stunned for some time and finally found his voice. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at Yi Ching Luo, earlier that person. And you. When Yi Ching Luo heard Instructor Luo's voice, she popped her head out from Dmo Xian's arms. It's just an old friend who had a little argument. It's fine. She curled her lips and revealed a faint smile. Yi Ching Luo's slender brows rose slightly, and the instructors arrived in time. She raised her hand and held Dmo Xian's hand with a questioning look. Just a dispute. Tell me honestly. What are you and Miss Tang talking about? The interior of the fire lair and turned it into ruins. Peach blossom eyes flickered slightly. The two instructors looked at each other and suddenly felt that this student's identity was not simple. Yi Ching Luo was almost bewitched by this pair of eyes. No wonder the usually cold and emotionless master ghost marshal would curl into an extremely seductive smile after he sensed this fatal profound chi fluctuation. Are you jealous? Seeing that Yi Ching Luo didn't want to explain further. His husky voice was filled with magnetism. Like a Instructor Luo didn't ask any more questions. Yi Ching Luo's heart suddenly seemed to have been hit hard as it started to palpitate. Speedily dashed in front of Yi Ching Luo as he raised his hand, she stared angrily at Yi Ching Luo's shoulder to check on her injuries. Flirting with her after a disagreement, he thought of Dmo Xian. She was obviously questioning him about his relationship with Tang Beiyuan, and he immediately retracted it. He actually flirted with her. Was he trying to change just about to open her mouth when her waist suddenly tightened? Thinking of this, the resentment in Yi Ching Luo's eyes as though he was making a declaration. Don't try to change the topic, as he used all his strength to rub Yi Ching Luo into his embrace. Dmo Xian caught her little hand which was poking his chest and hugged her tightly. Lips slightly raised. Yuan's fiancé is one of my guardians. I will take good care of Lil Luo. Yi Ching Luo raised her brows. Long Yunxian was stunned on the spot as his azure guardian is to listen to my orders unconditionally. The young lady nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, and he slowly lowered his eyes, even more slow-witted than saying a single word. Dmo Xian looked at that delicate little face, waiting for his explanation, and when they saw Yi Ching Luo's clothes, which stretched out his fingers and pinched her cheek. The two of them didn't care that Yi Ching Luo was still being hugged tightly by Dmo Xian. Falling in love with a guardian is destined to be an incomplete relationship. Palm, as they softly comforted Yi Ching Luo in a choked up voice. Because between them, I and the Imperial Palace with unconcealable concern. Yi Ching Luo's struggling and coquettish action stopped. Yi Ching Luo's expression turned gentle, whittling away Dmo Xian's words. She struggled for a few times and got out of Dmo Xian's embrace. As if she finally understood. Don't worry, Tang Beiyuan's eyes always surfaced a touch of superficial wounds. Tang Beiyuan's jump around after a few days of rest. And when she saw Dmo lowered her head and looked at her messy self, Tang Beiyuan would subconsciously look at them with an envious gaze. Imperial Palace's granny. She obviously had a fiancé and loved her fiancé deeply. But the injuries on her body could be considered serious. Because Tang Beiyuan's love was destined to be the divine weapon and profound jade. What women wanted was a simple mind to calm down and let Xian think spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed through his limbs and every pore and Beiyuan's fiancé. His eyes internal tenderness had also been healed. If it was in the current Yi Ching Luo fiancé would definitely wouldn't have the leisure to care about my subordinates between the Arch Palace and Tang Beiyuan come here fiancé would definitely choose the Arch Palace. But after I met even though Tang Beiyuan the feeling of love and destiny and understood the happiness of being together with a lover. But time and time again Dmo Xian abandoned by the man she loved by his lips. Expression as though no matter how strong a hold as he carefully it would still shatter into totally pieces. Don't treat us as brothers. The only person who matters do you take on by yourself without saying a word. Therefore our eyes met and there was complete silence. Or do you find it interesting to see us searching for you like crazy, confession, worrying about you and running around flushed red? In her enchanting eyes, Long Yun's face of unparalleled elegance gradually enlarged. Chapter 1482. Chapter 1485. Tong Ziqing was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. A dry cough was heard. She had a sharp tongue but a soft interrupting their tender feelings. She was exasperated. Yi Ching Luo immediately opened her eyes charming eyes were filled with the direction of the sound. She stretched out her hand and wrapped it around Tong with a gloomy face. Slender shoulders as her lips curled into an arc. Was also carrying Kitty Lee. I'm sorry to have made you worry. Wu's side. Tong Ziqing gave a cold was the one who had coughed earlier. She was still arrogant and didn't return Yi Ching Luo's hug. Instructor
But her
Zoe.
body gradually softened.
In front of these seniors, wantonly showing off their affection and whatnot,
sacred beasts.
it was quite embarrassing to think
White
about
tiger
it.
sacred beast.
Yiqing Luo quietly
Suddenly,
raised her
a
eyes
panicked
and
voice
stared at
sounded,
DMO
filled with
Xian
shock and
resentfully.
astonishment.
It was all his fault.
The few of them looked over.
He flirted with her
They
without
saw
saying
Instructor
a word.
Luo and Instructor Li standing
and he
by
even flirted
Chi-Chi's
with her
side as
more
they
and more
raised their heads
skillfully,
and met Chi-Chi's tiger
causing her
eyes
pink
in
bubbles to
disbelief.
swell up, forgetting that there were other
tilted
people
its
around.
head and blinked its huge tiger eyes,
Wu's gaze only
acting
lightly
cute
swept
as it
past
greeted them in a
DMO
friendly
Xian.
manner. The
This
expression on his
fox
face
beast
was
obviously
obviously several
cold as
times
ice.
bigger than ordinary tiger
This gaze,
beasts.
this invisible aura
Tilting
that
its
emanated
head
from it,
blinking its eyes and
it
giving
really
out a
made
low
Yiqing
howl.
Luo's back turn cold.
The two instructors' legs
She
instantly
rubbed the
went
goosebumps
soft as
on
they
her
supported
arm.
each other to
Wu
barely
master,
stand on their
you,
feet.
if you have anything to
They
say,
had heard of it
please
before.
say it directly. This creepy
Beside
gaze.
Yiqing Luo, there was a
I will have
legendary divine
nightmares.
dragon and a white tiger
Wu
sacred
coldly
beast.
glanced at her.
Now
Student
that they had
Yiqing
seen
Luo,
it with their own
you have
eyes,
seriously
the two
violated the
instructors
team's
felt
rules,
extremely
disobeyed
shocked.
the instructor's orders,
Yiqing
and even
Luo
created
took
such
a look
big
at
commotion,
Chi-Chi and her
affecting
gaze
the other
fell onto the
students'
ground.
training. Don't
On
you have
Win,
anything
who was
to
lying
say?
down powerlessly with
His
his
questions
eyes blank.
came one after another,
Ah,
each more
Xian,
forceful than the
Wind he.
last.
Yiqing
Ah,
Luo
Wu.
had just done a simple treatment
Zhou
for
Mo
Wind as his
called
injuries
out,
were too
stopping
serious.
Wu.
Forget it.
Presumably,
Look at Yiqing
Imperial
Luo's
Palace's
body.
granny
There are
had
so
followed
many
Wind's
wounds.
presence to
For
the
the
flame
sake of
nest
the
and
Overlord,
caught hold of
just
Wind
let it
to
go.
inquire about her whereabouts.
Overlord.
After
Hearing
that,
this name,
she used torture to force
Instructor Luo and Instructor
But
Li's
Wind
gaze
didn't reveal her
immediately shifted
whereabouts.
from Mu Chi-Chi to her.
That was why the
And when they
Imperial
heard
Palace's
these 4
granny
words,
called Ofonga, disloyal
Wu's
dog.
brows also twitched
As
a
one
few
of the
times.
4 great guardians of the
The few
Imperial
of them
Palace,
fixed their
he
sights on
isn't that
Yiqing
weak.
Luo's side, on that tall figure with an
held her
imposing
shoulders
appearance,
as he comforted her,
emitting a
I will bring
majestic
him back
aura
to
from
the
the
Imperial
man.
Palace for treatment.
Purple Robe billowed,
Sorry,
Purus.
I couldn't protect him.
Yiqing
This
Luo
was the
could tell
legendary
that Wind
figure
had
in
a
the
certain
Nirvana
status
realm.
in DMO Xian's heart.
Overlord.
She had heard DMO
Xian
Xian mention this before.
The 2 instructors were completely
Wind had been
stunned.
selected by the Imperial
From the
Palace's
moment they
granny
rushed
as
here,
a secret
they had
guard
already
since young,
noticed this
to
dazzling
secretly
man.
protect DMO Xian.
Only, seeing how close
DMO
Yiqing
Xian was
Luo
already
and
used to
DMO
Wind's
Xian were.
existence. Anyone with a
affection
discerning eye
between
could
them.
see their relationship.
They were like master and
Naturally,
servant,
he would
but
not
they were
take
better
the
than
initiative
master
to
and
ask
servant.
about DMO Xian's identity.
It was also because of her that
Then,
Afong was
their
so
attention was
seriously
focused
injured.
on Chi-Chi.
I was the one who sent him to
Unexpectedly,
protect you in the
this
first
man
place.
was the Overlord.
DMO
My
Xian's
training must
slender
be
fingers
carried out
curled up
according to my
slightly.
rules.
The distinct joints of his
Wu
knuckles
shot
knocked
a
hard on
glance at
Yiqing
DMO
Luo's forehead as he coldly
wasn't
said,
able to protect
if you're
you,
wrong,
and even
then you
dragged
should
you into
accept the
danger
punishment
to suffer for him.
I believe the Overlord
DMO
wouldn't have any
Xian's voice
objections.
suddenly
Right.
turned gloomy. After
DMO
Afong
Xian
recovers,
frowned slightly.
he must accept severe
The
punishment.
ghost martial artist had an obvious hostility
Xian.
towards him.
Yiqing
He
Luo
didn't know
rubbed
where
her
this
forehead in
hostility came
pain.
from.
Before he
Afong
could open his
speak,
mouth,
Ah
the young
Feng's
girl in his
extremely
embrace
weak
had
voice
already
softly
raised her
sounded,
eyes to
"This
meet
subordinate is
Wu's.
willing to accept punishment."
Resolutely and indifferently,
This subordinate
she
is
said,
incompetent
what
and
Master
failed to
Wu
protect
said
you.
is correct.
He paused.
I'm the one who broke
Feng's
the rules
face
of the
contorted
group
in
and
pain
delayed
from
everyone's
speaking.
special training. He took a deep
I
breath
should
and
accept my
continued,
punishment.
It's my fault for failing to
Wu
protect the
coldly
mistress of the
snorted
Imperial
before
Palace.
turning around and walking in the
I must
direction of
accept
the
my
exit.
punishment.
That youthful
Mistress
and
of the
mature
Imperial
face did not look
Palace.
out of place at all.
This form of address
Zhou
made
Mo
Yiqing
promptly
Luo's
hugged the
cheeks
person
burn
in his
slightly.
arms and followed the footsteps
This form
of
of
Wu.
address, she had only heard Tang
Xian.
Beiyuan call her in this
I
way.
have to go back first.
She had not expected.
Yiqing
Luo
Luo, who
snuggled
didn't
back
want to
into
admit that she
DMO
was worthy
Xian's
of
arms,
DMO Xian,
raised her eyes
would
and stared
automatically
deeply
call
at
out this
DMO
form of
Xian's
address.
face. Which meant
You.
Chapter 1486. Wind struggled
Because
to get
of
up
her,
as he knelt down in the
DMO
direction
Xian
of
had quarreled
DMO
with the Imperial
and
Palace's
Yiqing Luo.
old
granny until both parties were unhappy.
He was completely convinced by
She didn't
Yiqing
know if the
Luo.
Imperial Palace's old
Before
granny
this,
would do
Wind
anything
had
that
some
would harm
opinions
DMO
about
Xian's
Yiqing Luo.
interests. Hence,
At
no
this
matter
moment,
how he looked at
DMO
her,
Xian
he
had
felt
to
that
rush
she
back
had
to the
ulterior
Imperial
motives.
Palace to take charge.
Later on, he
Thinking
found
of
out
this,
that his thoughts were
Yiqing
too
Luo
dirty, and he
resisted the
gradually
urge to
accepted
ask
Yiqing
DMO
Luo's
Xian
to
to
stay.
stay.
Her charming eyes
But he didn't
curved
feel
into a
that
narrow
Yiqing
arc.
Luo was the kind of
Xian,
lady who
I'll
could
leave
stay
with
by
the instructors
DMO
first.
Xian's side.
Standing
Saying that,
side by
she
side with
loosened
him.
her arms around
But
DMO
now,
Xian's waist.
He was convinced.
DMO Xian suddenly
Because he
stretched
was
out his
DMO
hand and
Xian's
pressed her
man.
arm.
We haven't seen
When
each
he
other
knew
for
that
so
he might
long.
be in danger.
Don't you miss me?
She was fearless of everything and entered into danger to search for him and save him. As the saying goes, she was willing to become a human target for Feng Ling's attacks to save him when he was under control. She and Xian had not seen each other for a few days. Of the imperial palace's Moreover, every time they met, they couldn't stay close to each other for a while and had to separate. She said that she was here to search for him. He had matters to deal with in the imperial palace. He said that no matter what, she would bring him away. On the other hand, had to work hard to grow and create better opportunities for herself and her brothers. Win knew that Yi Qing Luo's actions were not because of him. I miss you so much. But because he was sent by the overlord to stay by her side. Concealed the shyness in her heart. Yi Qing Luo her eyes was willing to give her all for the man's face. But no matter how I think, now is not the time to be willful, extremely arrogant. She once again took the initiative to hug him tightly. She loved the overlord wholeheartedly. She threw herself completely into DMO Xian's arms. This lady was the most suitable lady for the overlord. She was the mistress voice in his arms sounded dull. DMO Xian's long peach blossom eyes squinted. You've never been my burden. He looked at the reason why something like this happened on the ground and why the imperial palace's granny came to find me is because I'm not strong enough to make her recognize me as the woman worthy of you. His voice had just ended when a slender figure appeared out of thin air in front of everyone. I can have a background that can rival yours. The lady was as beautiful as a flower. No matter how much the old woman dressed in a lotus green soft silk dress with dark flower patterns embroidered on the sleeves, and she will not let you. When she walked, sink into the problem between me and the old woman, spirals, like a dream or fantasy. Luo slowly shook her head. Overlord. Yi Qing the lady knelt down on one knee. When Dian went back to the imperial palace's old grandma, his eyes were filled with sorrow and disappointment. DMO Xian pointed She did not want to put DMO Xian in a difficult position. Was stunned as a sliver of hesitation surfaced on her beautiful face. Break off relations with the imperial palace's old granny. He would take over Win's position to DMO Xian, which meant that she had to leave the imperial palace's to secretly protect Yi Qing Luo. Was equivalent to an elder. If you put yourself in his shoes, could see the struggle in Tang Beiyuan's eyes as he sighed softly, leaving the other brothers who heard for a period of time might be good for both of you. And could she, but there's also a possibility that, break off all relations with her brothers. Just thinking about it, remained silent for a long time. Yi Qing Luo could feel the pain and hesitation. That beautiful face was filled with a melancholy that made one did not hesitate to stand on her side and spoke out to defend her. Did not press her for an immediate answer. He even gave the imperial palace's old granny a warning. Gaze lingered between the both of them. This was the depth of his love for her. Why does it feel like a little weird? How could he be so decisive and without hesitation? What was the relationship between DMO Xian and Tang Beiyuan? Why did it look like? He didn't seem like an ordinary always able to see through what I'm thinking about with ever since the last time they met. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked at him. The relationship between the two of them was much closer than that of a subordinate. DMO Xian's glimmering peach blossom that he could tell that Tang Beiyuan was deeply in love with her fiancé. He held Yi Qing Luo tightly as he gently planted a kiss on her lips. Perhaps it was because of Yi Qing Luo's gaze. Closed her eyes as a tranquil smile appeared on her face. Tang Beiyuan regained her senses from her deep thoughts as she raised her eyes and looked suddenly, at DMO there was Xian. A faint sound of something tearing through the arrangements. She heard that, she stood up agilely and directly suddenly rang, leaving without saying a word. Their lips had just touched for a few breaths' time when the two of them immediately separated and looked towards the direction of the sound. Raising their eyes, they saw a figure flying over. Yi Qing Luo only had time to see an afterimage floating past. But in an instant, it had already stopped not too far away from Yi Qing Luo. A crimson luxurious robe, like a fire phoenix descending. His jet black long hair was held in place by a wooden hairpin, extremely casual. That cold and hard face, that sharp gaze, seemed to be sealed in ice for thousands of miles. The minute Yi Qing Luo met that pair of eyes, she felt a gush of cold air rising from her heart. Chapter 1487. Zhu Wu Axian. Why was he here? This was the Blaze Lair. His motive for coming here was because of the so-called divine object. Or for her. Recalling the past, Zhu Wu Axian had always treated her as the person he knew, and tried all sorts of ways to probe her. Yi Qing Luo felt that the reason why Zhu Wu Axian would appear here, it might be the latter. When DMO Xian saw Zhu Wu Axian, his expression sunk. The pair of smiling eyes suddenly released an extremely cold chill at this moment. At this moment, his entire being gave off an arrogant and valiant aura. He tightened his grip around Yiqing Luo's waist as his icy-cold peach blossom eyes looked coldly at Zhu Wu Axian. I'd not expected the rumors of the Blaze Lair to be so alluring that even Death God Castle's Castle Lord has come personally. Zhu Wu Axian ignored Dmo Xian's words. His gaze fell onto the arm on Yiqing Luo's waist without blinking. That alluring crimson robe was unable to conceal the chilly air that he was emitting. Dmo Xian tightened his grip. Yiqing Luo nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, and it could be said that the two men's gazes intersected. She could even clearly see the sparks from the two men's eyes. It crackled and flickered with electricity. Why was this scene a little strange? The fortunate thing was, Gue Wu brought General Luo and Instructor Li over. When the two instructors heard the way Dmo Xian addressed Zhu Wu Axian, their faces were filled with astonishment as they looked at Zhu Wu Axian in shock. Even Instructor Li, who had always had a fiery temper and was extremely impatient towards everything, was unable to calm his agitated little heart at this moment. Death God Castle's Castle Lord. Instructor Luo took a few huge steps and returned to Yiqing Luo's side as he stared at Zhu Wu Axian and sized him up. I know your name, Master Gue Wu had mentioned you before. Instructor Luo wasn't affected by the chilly air that was emitted from Zhu Wu Axian as he was still in high spirits. Little Luo. Gue Wu's icy-cold voice called out to the agitated Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo then reacted as he rubbed his head and laughed awkwardly. Young Master Zhu, I'm so sorry. I'm a burly man, and when I saw someone who was praised by Master Gue Wu, I got excited. Zhu Wu Axian took some time before he slowly shifted his gaze onto Instructor Luo. That extraordinarily handsome face was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. However, the cold aura emitted from those eyes still made people shudder. General Luo's smile froze. His hand that was rubbing his head also froze. Just when everyone thought that Zhu Wuxin wouldn't speak, they heard his cold voice ring out. It's fine. Instructor Luo's eyes widened and his jaw dropped. Didn't they all say, this Death God Castle Lord was especially hard to approach? No matter who spoke to him, it was an honor to be able to reply to him once out of 10 sentences. He actually responded to her. Instructor Luo stood rooted to the ground, unable to come back to his senses. Yiqing Luo secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Instructor Luo was there. Only then did the strange atmosphere dissipate. For some reason, Dmo Xian and Zhu Wu Axian were facing off. There was an inexplicable feeling that they were going to fight each other at any moment. Thinking of the way Zhu Wuxin looked at her, repeating it over and over again, she forgot about his persistence. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but shiver. It was better to maintain a distance from Zhu Wuxin. But it was too early for Yiqing Luo to be assured. Chapter 1488. Yiqing Luo's head was filled with question marks. What on earth was going on? Why did it sound like? There was a feeling of jealousy. Was it a misperception? Instructor Luo was apparently stunned by Dmo Xian's words. After some time, he stuttered as he shook his head. Of course not. Overlord is the #1 strongest person in Nirvana realm. Of course I'm excited to see you. Overlord's charm is naturally unparalleled. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a chilly voice. Instructor Luo is saying that I'm not as good as him. Instructor Luo's face immediately turned pale. He looked at the both of them with a tearless face. Could he apply to shut his mouth? At this moment, no matter how slow the person was, he could clearly feel. The undercurrent between Zhu Wu Axian and Dmo Xian was surging violently. Instructor Luo was extremely regretful. Why couldn't he keep his composure and had to rush up to be implicated? Death God Castle's Castle Lord, are you threatening him and going against your conscience? Dmo Xian squinted his eyes as his lips curled in ridicule. Isn't the Overlord using his own status to force Instructor Luo to praise you? Zhu Wuxian refused to be outdone as his cold voice was like thin ice. 4 pairs of eyes met and once again, it set off a crackling current. Instructor Luo looked left and right. He discovered that the both of them were staring at each other, with no intention of shifting their eyes away. He shrunk his neck as he retreated step by step towards Ghost Marshal's direction. He hadn't even taken a step. He saw the both of them turning their heads at the same time as they stared at Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo, what you said earlier, is it from the bottom of your heart? They spoke almost at the same time. That majestic aura wrapped Instructor Luo into a ball. Instructor Luo's legs turned into jelly as he retreated several steps before he managed to stabilize himself. What are the both of you doing? Instructor Luo didn't offend you. Yiqing Luo, who couldn't take it anymore, immediately stretched out her hand and grabbed Dmo Xian's arm as she pulled him to her side. Following that, she spoke to Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo, don't bother about these two. Let them continue looking at each other with tender feelings. You guys leave first, I'll rush over immediately. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, Instructor Luo immediately retracted his body and dashed towards Ghost Marshal's direction as though he was escaping. The aura of these 2 young men. His old bones really couldn't take it anymore. And when the 4 eyes met, the 2 of them who were releasing electric current heard Yiqing Luo's adjectives. The 2 expressionless faces twitched a few times at the same time. Affectionate? What the hell? Since when were they so affectionate? Weren't they very handsome, cool, and crazy, using their own auras to suppress their opponents? Chapter 1489. Zhu Wuxian's cold voice enunciated each word clearly. That pair of frosty gaze was like a sharp knife, slicing Yiqing Luo's body. This tone, this expression. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like it was a romantic statement. However, when it came to Zhu Wuxian, these were indeed words of love. Yiqing Luo's face immediately turned pale. Subconsciously, he raised his head to look at Dmo Xian's expression. But he saw Dmo Xian's expression was calm as he lifted his eyelids in a carefree manner. His lips twitched disapprovingly. Young Master Zhu, taking liberties with this lord's woman in front of this lord, are you declaring war with this lord? Yes. His voice was calm and emotionless. That one word stirred up thousands of waves. Even Instructor Luo and the others who were watching from the side could not help but gasp. The gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo were no longer simple shock and astonishment. It was an unconcealable admiration. This girl, he actually made Lord Dizun and the Death God Castle's castle master fight against each other. He even declared war in public. Femme fatale. Femme fatale. What a pity. Lil Luo is destined to only be this lord's woman. Dmo Xian's gaze suddenly turned cold as his long arm pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. You have no chance. Zhu Wuxian's usually calm eyes finally showed a trace of change. His eyes flickered a few times. The man is unmarried, the woman is unmarried, I naturally have a chance. What's more, if she remembers me, the one who doesn't have a chance is you. The expression on Dmo Xian's face was still that calm. He had an expression that said, no matter what you say, Lil Luo is my woman. But Yiqing Luo could feel it. Dmo Xian at this moment, because of Zhu Wuxian's words, his heart surged like raging waves. Especially when Dmo Xian glanced at her from the corner of his eye, it made Yiqing Luo's back shiver. She nestled in his arms. Her small hands kept caressing his chest. She really wanted to shout out that she was innocent. She didn't remember any past between her and Zhu Wuxian. Zhu Wuxian's words made it sound as if she had once had some unforgettable love with him. After all, she was only 15 years old. Her memory became clearer when she was about 3 or 4 years old. In his memories, he was absolutely certain that there was no such person as Zhu Wuxian. Could it be that they had met before they were 3 or 4 years old? When they were so young, who could remember it? Cough, cough, cough. The atmosphere between these two people was so tense that the air was about to condense into ice. As the main character of the confrontation, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but let out a dry cough to break the silence. That. Young Master Zhu, I think you've recognized the wrong person. I'm really not the person you're looking for. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Axian and said. You are, Zhu Wu Axian said confidently. No one knew where he got his confidence from. Yiqing Luo replied helplessly, I've never lost my memories. I remember everything that happened in the past 10 years clearly. Zhu Wuxin remained silent. Only using that pair of sharp eyes, he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in her heart. Zhu Wuxin's strength was unfathomable. She might not be Zhu Wuxin's match. Moreover, if she fought with Zhu Wuxin probably wouldn't retaliate. If Dmo Xian saw this, he would probably assume that she and Zhu Wuxin had a female relationship. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's expression as his eyes turned slightly chilly. Suddenly, he hooked the young lady in his arms and tipped his toes, bringing Yiqing Luo along as they floated in midair. Chapter 1490. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo felt that the profound qi on Dmo Xian's body continued to surge. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and took a look at her. The moment he looked at Yiqing Luo, his gaze was filled with adoration. He curled his lips and said softly, Don't worry, it'll be over soon. After saying that, he raised his eyes, and his gaze shot out like a sharp blade. The hurricane swirled up sand and gravel into the air. His jet-black hair fluttered on his shoulders as he bared his fangs and claws. Zhu Wuxin also did not say a word and did not retreat even half a step. With a flick of his sleeve, a strong gust of wind blew against his loose crimson robe, causing it to flutter loudly. The two of them stood in midair, facing each other. A powerful wave of qi lingered around the two of them, spreading out wantonly. The hurricane didn't stop, and the airwaves were monstrous. The few people who were standing not far away were simply dumbfounded. It was too scary. The profound qi surrounding the two of them was like a whirlwind. Compared to the Xian qi that had rushed over after following the Xian qi fluctuation, it was even more terrifying. Fortunately, these two people were still somewhat rational. However, as the profound energy of both sides converged, the aura they released did not spread throughout the entire flame nest. Otherwise, they were afraid that they would not be able to stand here and watch. Is this the power of His Majesty? I'm so used to seeing him and Qing Luo being so lovey-dovey that I've almost forgotten that the Overlord is actually so strong. Yan Xiaoyi raised her head and stared unblinkingly at the two people in midair, her eyes filled with astonishment. Tong Ziqing was also unable to maintain her cold elegance as her eyes were filled with astonishment. What's more frightening is that, this Death God Castle's castle master is actually on par with the Overlord. With a pause, Tong Ziqing seemed to have thought of something. She immediately restrained the shock in her eyes and looked at Long Yunzhan beside her. Class leader, she called out to him softly. Long Yunzhan didn't even blink as he stared at the two people in the air. The azure light in his eyes flickered. There seemed to be some complicated feelings that she could not understand. However, Tong Ziqing could see it. The veins on his forehead bulged. His whole body was taut with muscles. His hands clenched into fists. Dmo Xian's power had deeply awed Long Yunzhan. He felt inferior because he couldn't defeat Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing's heart faintly throbbed with pain. He still loved Yiqing Luo. Because he loved Yiqing Luo, that was why he compared himself with Dmo Xian. Class monitor, who do you think will win? Yan Xiaoyi, who didn't notice the strange atmosphere, was still excitedly discussing with Long Yunjian. There was no reply from Long Yunjian after a long while. Yan Xiaoyi ignored him and continued to stare at the two people who were exuding pressure in midair. TSK. Ah woo, these two young people are really amazing. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue and looked at the two of them in amazement. Do they have the demeanor you had back then? You make it sound like you're very old, Kitty Li, who was in his arms, muttered. Zhou Mo looked down, his long and narrow phoenix eyes forming a demonic arc looking at the two black cat ears, which kept swaying on top of his head. He gave a low laugh as he bent down and leaned close to her ear as he laughed hoarsely, "Little wild cat, whether I'm old or not, you can verify for yourself." Although Kitty Li didn't quite understand the hidden meaning in Zhou Mo's words. But her cat's intuition told her, Zhou Mo was definitely up to no good. Kitty Li's eyes widened as she pretended to stare at him fiercely. "Pooey. You frivolous man. Kitty Li doesn't care if you're old or not." Saying that, she snorted and turned her head away, not looking at him. Zhou Mo was pleased by her cute little gesture. Chapter 1491. I've been paying attention to this Xu Wu accent. Suddenly, Gue Wu's cold voice came from the side. It broke the atmosphere of Zhou Mo teasing Kitty Li. Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows. I know, his background is complicated. Our men can't find any information about him. He was a young man, but he was able to become the legendary death god Castle's castle master who caused people to tremble in fear. Moreover, all the major forces in Nirvana realm were fawning on him. This young man was like a species that appeared out of thin air. An extremely mysterious existence. His mysteriousness was not inferior to Dmo Xian. His aura is not inferior to that of a venerable sovereign. He is another abnormal monster. Zhou Mo looked at Gue Wu. Ah Wu, if this goes on, the balance in the lower realm will be broken. The Emperor has not used his full strength. Gue Wu's malicious eyes swept past Zhou Mo and Kitty Li who was snorting in his arms. Immediately, he gave Zhou Mo a warning stare. Zhou Mo gave a disapproving look. Little wildcat doesn't seem to have a high IQ. She can't understand. You're the one with a low IQ. Your whole family has a low IQ. Kitty Li retorted angrily, staring at him with her big round eyes. Her little hand clutched Zhou Mo's collar tightly. She looked like she wanted to rush up and bite him to death. Looking at Kitty Li's adorable look, Zhou Mo couldn't help but burst out laughing. One of his hands couldn't help but pinch Kitty Li's cheek. Kitty Li let out a meow and couldn't help but grab Zhou Mo's hand and bite him. Gue Wu frowned as he watched the two of them playing around. His eyes became more and more solemn. After a while, seeing that Zhou Mo was still playing around, Gue Wu couldn't be bothered to wait for him. He walked straight towards the direction he came from. Zhou Mo hurriedly chased after him. Ah Wu, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Aren't you curious about who will win? The two instructors who followed up immediately nodded. They expressed that a duel between two experts was a rare opportunity. They wanted to continue watching. He wanted to see who among these two great experts would be able to win the heart of the beauty. Gue Wu kept a straight face, his eyes gloomy and his voice cold, not interested. Yeah. Ah Wu, don't be like this. Don't you want to investigate whether this Xu Wuxin is? Bang, bang, bang. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a deafening explosion interrupted Zhou Mo's words. The air of the entire flame nest seemed to have gathered a terrifying profound energy fluctuation. It surged like the tide, recklessly colliding. Gue Wu's expression sunk as he immediately activated his barrier, enveloping the three students of the devil class as well as the instructors within. He looked up again. In mid-air, the two men who were originally competing with each other's aura had unknowingly become entangled with one another. The fiery red horizon was like a bloody mouth that had opened wide. One of them was glistening with purple light. His aura was like a rainbow. Mysterious light came one after another, carrying a sharp battle intent. One of them was dressed in blood-red robes. He was coquettish and cruel, and the profound energy he released was stronger than the previous one. Two streams of profound chi constantly clashed and collided. Sand and dust filled the sky, and hurricanes messed up everything in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo was firmly held in Dmo Xian's arms. His strong and powerful arm had not loosened even for a moment. His tall body and broad chest protected her well in the confrontation between the two profound chis. She wasn't disturbed by any of the aura. The collision of the profound chi stirred up an intense hurricane. It blew the hair on Yiqing Luo's forehead. She raised her eyes and gazed at the calm and emotionless Dmo Xian. That disdainful look, as though everything was in his palm. Chapter 1492. Zhu Wuxian's unapproachable face turned even colder. A pair of sharp icy cold eyes stared at the young lady in Dmo Xian's arms. The young lady didn't notice his gaze. The young lady's extremely bewitching eyes were filled with tenderness and unconcealable love. She looked at Dmo Xian in a daze. Using that loving gaze, she looked at Dmo Xian in a daze. Yiqing Luo's gaze deeply agitated Zhu Wuxian. Obviously. He was the first person to meet Yiqing Luo. Obviously. He was the man whom Yiqing Luo should love. The man whom Yiqing Luo looked at with that kind of gaze should be him. Zhu Wuxian's usually calm and unperturbed heart was surging with a surge of fury. That pair of icy cold eyes looked extremely malevolent and terrifying. A piercingly cold aura was unleashed continuously. The profound chi surged as the air billowed into the sky. The profound chi intertwined once again as sparks flew. Dmo Xian. The icy cold voice had a tinge of hoarseness. She belongs to me, she belongs to me. Zhu Wuxian spat out words which seemed like a demon's spell. Inexplicably, there was an extremely strange feeling. Dmo Xian scoffed in disdain. His sleeves moved slightly as a burst of powerful profound chi was unleashed from his sleeves. The purple light was dazzling as it broke through the enchantment which Zhu Wuxian had conjured and shot towards Zhu Wuxian's face. Zhu Wuxian reacted in time as he swiftly evaded it. But he still couldn't avoid being struck on the chest by that strike. Zhu Wuxian gave a dull moan as he retreated a few steps. Yiqing Luo also heard Zhu Wuxian's words as her brows creased as she spoke in a chilly voice. Young Master Zhu, the person whom you insist on believing might not be me. I admire young Master Zhu's persistence towards the woman you love, but this persistence, please don't place it on me. She had no memories of Zhu Wuxian at all. Zhu Wuxian was another man with a hole in his brain, pestering her and insisting that it was her, yet refusing to be reasonable. Yiqing Luo finally came to a conclusion. This Zhu Wuxian. He was a lunatic. If it's not you, I'll kill you. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice was filled with a biting cold murderous intent. Yiqing Luo didn't doubt that Zhu Wuxian's words were just casually said. Once he was sure that she wasn't the person he was looking for, he would definitely kill her. He would not hesitate to kill her. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. Just as he was about to speak, Dmo Xian beat him to it. Kill her. Do you think you have the ability? She is. Zhu Wuxian stared at Yiqing Luo's face, stubborn and certain. It was very tiring to talk to such a person. Zhu Wuxian's stubbornness was already incurable. In Zhu Wuxian's view, his people should belong to him. If he had recognized the wrong Yiqing Luo, He would choose to kill this woman with his own hands, the woman he had saved multiple times because he had admitted his mistakes. However, Chu Wuxin still insisted that he had not recognized the wrong person. His Yiqing Luo, was this Yiqing Luo? He wanted Yiqing Luo to recall their past. If Yiqing Luo really couldn't recall, if he couldn't obtain it, then he would destroy it. This thought surfaced in his mind. A biting cold murderous intent flashed past Zhu Wuxian's eyes. Zhu Wuxian, this lord shall use action to tell you today that this lord's woman is not a woman you can dream of. Just as he finished his words, Dmo Xian's entire body's energy suddenly soared. A terrifying profound light shot directly towards Zhu Wuxian's direction. Chapter 1493. The Overlord is getting serious. Gue Wu looked at the pressure being unleashed in the sky as his expression sunk slightly. Let's go, this isn't something we can interfere in. Zhou Mo Xian remained calm and composed as he looked at Dmo Xian, who was dressed in a purple robe as his sleeves danced, looking as handsome as a god. He rubbed his chin as he gave a meaningful smile. Since ancient times, heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beauty. Bam! A loud sound was heard as Zhu Wuxian's body fell from the sky. Following that, he landed heavily on the ground. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo hurriedly hugged Dmo Xian's waist, preventing him from attacking again. Enough, the both of you are enough. The sand which flew up from the ground was blown away by the hurricane. Zhu Wuxian fell onto the ground and his body actually dragged out an obvious trace on the ground. But he was still expressionless. As though he couldn't feel the pain in his body. There wasn't any feeling at all. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. Zhu Wuxian's red wide sleeves had already been torn apart. Bright red blood kept gushing out, fusing with his crimson luxurious robe. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to tell that he was injured. A trace of blood spilled out from the corner of Zhu Wuxian's mouth. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt an indescribable dull pain. Her brows creased as her little hand pressed against her chest. She couldn't understand where this feeling came from. Feeling heartache. Dmo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes as he stared at Yiqing Luo's dazed face as he asked in an unhappy tone. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she looked at Zhu Wuxian's direction and sighed softly. He just recognized the wrong person and is too stubborn. No matter what, he saved me several times, so I owe him a few favors. Even if it was because he recognized the wrong person, which was why Zhu Wuxian saved her. But saving her was the truth. His stubbornness was merely because he loved that person too much, the person he was looking for. Lil Luo, you're my woman. Regardless of life or death, you're mine. Dmo Xian locked her lower jaw as his brows were filled with solemnity. No matter if he denies that he's the wrong person, you better remember this sentence. Looking at the jealous Dmo Xian, childishly, Yiqing Luo's brows overflowed with a trace of tenderness. She put her arms around his neck and nodded hard. I'm yours, and only you. It didn't matter if Zhu Wuxin denied that he was the wrong person. No matter what happened between her and Chu Wuxin. The current her only had Dmo Xian in her heart. This would never change. Not good. There's movement. All of a sudden, the ghost marshal's vigilant voice rang out. Gue Wu and Zhou Mo quickly shielded the other students and instructors behind them. The fire nest is about to collapse. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone felt the ground beneath their feet shake. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo tightly as his brows creased as he looked at the source of the disturbance. In the depths of the lair, there was no end to it. Suddenly, an extremely dazzling ray of light shot out, like the light of fire. In an instant, the entire fire nest was illuminated. Wherever the dazzling light went, everything in its surroundings would be hidden in the light. Ah Xian, this. What's going on? Yiqing Luo looked at that ray of light in shock, which was already flying towards them. Her gaze looked towards Zhu Wuxian's direction. Young Master Zhu is still over there. Ah Xian, let's bring him along and leave. Her words suddenly came to a halt. Wasn't Zhu Wuxian injured by Dmo Xian earlier? Why did he disappear? In Zhu Wuxian's direction, there was only a pool of blood and Zhu Wuxian's figure was nowhere to be seen. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he instantly reacted, Lil Luo, hug me tightly. But just as he finished his words. Chapter 1494. Following that, it was an earth-shattering brilliance as it shrouded over. Before Yiqing Luo could react, a strong suction force, like a tornado, sucked her in forcefully. The next moment, Yiqing Luo felt her vision turning black as she fainted. When Yiqing Luo regained consciousness, she discovered that she was in a huge karst cave. There were blazing flames in all directions. The surroundings were filled with lava, rolling and flowing. The place where she laid was also a path created by the flames. What made Yiqing Luo astonished was she totally didn't feel any heat at all. As though these flames were all illusory. But Yiqing Luo was clear, these were absolutely not illusory flames. But they really existed. Surveying the surroundings, this was a passageway constructed by the flames. As far as the eye could see, it was all flames. What was this place? Where were Dmo Xian and the rest? Numerous questions kept darting around in her mind. Las Luo, this is the underground depths of the blazing cavern. Old Man Tsang voiced out in time, clearing Yiqing Luo's doubts. The underground depths of the blazing cavern. Why would she suddenly be in such a place? Where were Ah Xian and the rest? Have you forgotten, there's a rumor regarding the blazing cavern? Old Man Tsang reminded. Rumor? Is it? The rumor that there's a divine object descending into the blazing cavern. The Overlord and Zhu Wuxian had just fought, the power was too huge, causing the blazing cavern to activate its self-protection enchantment, sucking all of you into the underground depths of the blazing cavern, which is also the blazing cavern's root vein. Yiqing Luo looked around in astonishment. This is the blazing cavern's root vein. What kind of self-protection enchantment is this? A place's root vein was equivalent to a person's Achilles heel. If Yiqing Luo tampered with the blazing cavern's root vein, the entire blazing cavern would fall into destruction. You can enter, but you can't leave. Old Man Tsang directly dispelled Yiqing Luo's thoughts. If you destroy the blazing cavern's root vein, all of you will die here. Let's find Ah Xian and the rest first, we'll think of a way after everyone gathers. Yiqing Luo heard that and could only sigh softly. Deep underground of the blazing cavern's root vein. Could it be the divine object prophesied by the state preceptor of South Billow Continent? Did it descend into the world from this land of roots? After all, news of a divine object descending upon the blaze lair had spread like wildfire. However, no one had actually seen the so-called divine item. He didn't even know what a divine object was. If the imperial tutor's prophecy was true, presumably, the so-called divine object was in the land of the roots. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up and immediately summoned Chi from the pet space. Chi, try to sense where you're being summoned from. Chi wagged its little tail and nestled in Yiqing Luo's arms. A pair of tiger eyes looked around, unable to conceal the excitement in his eyes. Master, the feeling of summoning Chi is getting stronger and stronger. This is the place. Master, move forward. The feeling of being summoned allowed Chi to clearly sense the location of the summoning. For some reason, Chi felt a little excited. Looking at Chi expression, Yiqing Luo confirmed the guess in her heart. Hugging Qi, Yiqing Luo followed Qi's instructions and walked straight ahead. He had just walked through a long passageway. Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. Chapter 1495. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as a burst of vigilant murderous intent shot out from her eyes. With a flip of her palm, the glower flame fan opened up in her hands. Bam! A loud sound was heard as Yiqing Luo's profound qi collided with the incoming aura. Yiqing Luo. A chilly voice was heard from the opposite side. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she kept the glower flame fan and saw the person clearly, Zhu Wuaxian. Zhu Wuaxian's cold eyes were sealed in ice as he stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo's face. His gaze was icy cold, like ice as it enveloped Yiqing Luo's entire body. Yiqing Luo frowned as she wasn't used to Zhu Wuaxian's vision. Young Master Zhu, this place is very dangerous. If you have nothing on, let's split up and find the others first. Yiqing Luo didn't want to be in the same space as Zhu Wuaxian. This man gave her an especially strange feeling. She had a feeling that at the next moment, she would be devoured into his stomach. Zhu Wuaxian's aggressiveness towards her was too strong. Yiqing Luo bypassed Zhu Wuaxian and was about to walk forward. However, her arm was grabbed by him. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter as she swung her hand. Let go. Yiqing Luo, why did you forget about me? Zhu Wuaxian's voice was extremely icy cold in the midst of the flame wave. He asked without any emotions. But Yiqing Luo could hear the tinge of pain in his words. Unknowingly, a certain part of Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to be struck by something fiercely. Inexplicably, it softened. She didn't continue struggling as she raised her eyes and met Zhu Wuaxian's eyes. Young Master Zhu, it's not that I've forgotten about you, but in my memory, you don't appear at all. Impossible. Zhu Wuaxian's voice suddenly rose. The hand which was holding Yiqing Luo's wrist increased in strength. Yiqing Luo frowned in pain. Nothing is impossible. If I really remember you, why would I pretend not to know you? Zhu Wuaxian didn't reply. Only using that pair of deep cold eyes, he stared at Yiqing Luo's face quietly. It was as if he wanted to see her face, her eyes, and her soul clearly. After a long time, he suddenly spoke. You are not Yiqing Luo at all. This sentence shocked Yiqing Luo so much that her heart thumped. Could it be, the Yiqing Luo whom Zhu Wuaxian knew, was actually that weak and timid Yiqing Luo? Was it the Yiqing Luo from before she had crossed over? No, impossible. She was not Yiqing Luo. But it was indeed Yiqing Luo. Everything in this body had already fused with her. There was definitely no Zhu Wuxian in his memories. She came to this continent. He had already completely regarded himself as a citizen of this continent. And she was Yiqing Luo. This was a fact that could not be erased. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. Soon after, he calmed his mind and revealed a solemn expression as he said in a deep voice, I don't know why you insist that I am the person you are looking for, but I want to say that you have definitely found the wrong person. After a pause, she continued, if the person you're looking for finds out that you found the wrong person, he'll definitely be very upset. The grip on his wrist gradually loosened. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to retract her hand. She took a look at Zhu Wuaxian who was still in deep thoughts, not wanting to say another word to him. She walked past him and continued walking forward. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill those companions of yours when I see them? Behind her, Zhu Wuaxian's icy cold voice was heard. Chapter 1496. What do you mean? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint. Zhu Wuxian laughed softly. I am a heartless person. If not for you, I would not have appeared here. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. This should be the first time Zhu Wuxin had spoken words of love. Although it was still emotionless. But that laughter was an extremely rare expression on Zhu Wuxin's face. But Zhu Wuxian's next sentence made Yiqing Luo's heart palpitate inexplicably, as it was forcefully wiped out. He said, I said, if you are not her, I will kill you. Then, he added, so, if I see them, I will kill them too. Yiqing Luo's eyes grew colder and colder. She turned around and returned to Zhu Wuxin's side. So, what exactly do you want to do? If you look at me, you can stop me from killing the others, Zhu Wuxin replied calmly. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly. The expression on his face twitched and changed a little. Good. Very good. Wasn't it just because she couldn't beat him now? Fine. She admitted defeat. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and calmed her emotions. Zhu Wuxian, you'd better not touch my companion. After saying that, she turned around and walked straight ahead. Zhu Wuxin gave her a deep look. Perhaps even he himself did not know. The expression on his face right now was no longer cold and emotionless. What replaced it was a doting look and a face full of tenderness. The two of them walked in the long passage for about an hour. Zhu Wuxin followed behind him. Yiqing Luo naturally couldn't let Qi lead the way to the direction of the summoning. She couldn't tell whether Zhu Wuxin was a friend or foe at the moment. And she believed it. Once Zhu Wuxin confirmed that she really wasn't the person he was looking for, he wouldn't be as easy to talk to as he was now. The thing that was summoning Qi. She could not give it to anyone else. As a result, the two of them circled around the passageways that extended in all directions. Along the way, he did not see a single person. Could it be, Gue Wu and the few people from Devil class were not sucked into the root vein? Then, where was Dmo Xian? She remembered the moment when the root vein land was opened. Someone hugged her tightly until the suction force knocked her unconscious. The person who was hugging her was not Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly cleared up as her eyes were like torches as she stared straight at Zhu Wuxian. You. Don't you know that the brilliance in the blazing flame nest is the brilliance which activated the land of the root veins? Otherwise, how could Zhu Wuxin have appeared at the last moment? Forcefully separate her from Dmo Xian. Zhu Wuxin remained silent. In other words, it was a silent agreement. Since he knew, why did he stay in the flame lair and get sucked into the root vein together with her? I want to be alone with you. As though he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts, Zhu Wuxian, who had remained silent for a long time, suddenly opened his mouth. The minute he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo felt a chill run down her spine. Zhu Wuxin's words of love, it really didn't match the style. She accepted her incompetence. I want you to remember me, Zhu Wuxin continued. More importantly, he wanted to confirm something for himself. Zhu Wuxian's eyes flashed slightly. Yiqing Luo's thoughts weren't on Zhu Wuxian and she didn't notice the glint in Zhu Wuxian's eyes. She rubbed her forehead with a headache. Under the current situation, she could no longer continue to deny that she wasn't the person Zhu Wuxian was looking for. Zhu Wuxian, this lunatic. Chapter 1497. Master, if this goes on, how are we going to get to the place where Qi was summoned? Qi squirmed in Yiqing Luo's arms. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and stared at Qi, replying in her heart, we can only find the others first. It was a very simple matter for her to get rid of Zhu Wuxin. However, if Zhu Wuxin encountered Long Yunjian's trio, he definitely wouldn't be Zhu Wuxin's match. She also tried to contact Kitty Li. But no matter how she called out to Kitty Li, he couldn't get a response from Kitty Li. She and Kitty Lee had already signed a life and death contract. The reason why he was unable to contact Kitty Lee, otherwise, the land of the root vein had blocked her connection with Kitty Lee, otherwise, under the protection of Zhou Mo and Gui Wu, Kitty Lee had not been sucked into the root vein. If it was the latter, that also meant that it was very likely that Long Yun Zhan and the other two had not entered the root vein. However, she had no way of confirming that the three of them had not entered the root vein. He still couldn't act alone. Do you hate being with me that much? Zhu Wu Axian looked at Yiqing Luo's back as his voice was filled with pain. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Before he could think of what to say, her wrist suddenly tightened. His whole body was tightly gripped by a strong force. Her body was suddenly pressed against a wall of fire. The boiling flames continued to burn. But when Yiqing Luo's back was pressed against the wall, she didn't feel any burning sensation at all. Zhu Wuxian's strength increased as he forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. What entered his nose was Zhu Wuxin's unique plum fragrance. His chest was different from Dmo Xian's generous warmth. But it was also extremely tough. His arms were tightly wrapped around her delicate body. His action of hugging a woman was very unfamiliar. It was obvious that this was the first time he had done such a thing to a woman. Yiqing Luo, you belong to me, belong to me. Zhu Wuxin stared at her face, then suddenly bent down and kissed her forcefully. You once said that you would be my bride. I clearly met you first, why did you forget about me before I found you? His kiss fell on her urgently. Yiqing Luo was anxious and immediately turned her head away. His warm lips landed on her face. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint. Other than Dmo Xian, no matter who it was. This kind of touch was hard for her to accept. She forcefully pushed Zhu Wuxian away and shouted sternly, Zhu Wuxian. Let me go. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. I will make you remember me in my own way. However, Zhu Wuxin wrapped his arms even tighter around her. It was as if he wanted to knead her into his body. His strength was strong and domineering. Yiqing Luo's strength was totally unable to struggle free from Zhu Wuxian. At the next instant, Zhu Wuxian's hand had already circled around Yiqing Luo's wrist. His broad palm was extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as the cold glint in her eyes started to seep out murderous intent. Zhu Wuxian. I'm warning you, if you don't let me go, I'll kill you right now. As soon as he finished speaking, her wrist was pinned to the wall by Zhu Wuxin. His hand tore open the sleeve of her gown. The academy uniform, which had already been dyed red with blood, was torn to shreds with a tearing sound. Half of Yiqing Luo's arm was revealed. On her fair wrist, under the intense flame, there was an extremely obvious cherry blossom pattern. Pieces of cherry blossom petals were imprinted on her arm. Like a cherry blossom bracelet. Yiqing Luo's heart jumped. She instinctively wanted to retract her hand. Zhu Wuxian discovered the existence of the azure dew bracelet. Chapter 1498. Yiqing Luo's hand retracted backwards. Zhu Wuxian's grip tightened. That long slender fingers gently covered that circle of cherry blossom pattern. That pair of icy cold eyes, actually at this moment. Like a sacred lotus melting on the snow mountain. And mixed with a trace of gentleness. Gentleness. These two words had nothing to do with Zhu Wuxin. But at this moment, it really appeared on Zhu Wuxian's face. Towards this, Yiqing Luo only had one feeling, it was too freaking horrifying. Zhu Wuxian's gaze didn't seem like he was looking at a god relic. But looking at something that had existed in his memory for a long time. That kind of deep affection. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think of how to deal with Zhu Wuxian. Then she saw a pair of eyes filled with tenderness and affection looking at her. It's indeed you. It's you. Chu Wuxian's face surfaced a smile as his eyes fixed on her. This birthmark, other than you, who else has it? Birthmark. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at the cherry blossom pattern on the azure dew bracelet. Chu Wuxian treated it as her birthmark. What did he mean by that? This was obviously the mark of the azure dew bracelet. In this world, she should be the only one who had this kind of cherry blossom pattern, right? In this era, cherry blossoms seemed to be an extremely rare flower. Most of them had never even seen it before. And the meaning behind Chu Wuxian's words was obviously to say that the cherry blossom pattern which he had seen before was not intentionally drawn by a lady to look good, but a birthmark imprinted on the skin. Which meant to say, Chu Wuxian didn't recognize the wrong person. She really was the person Chu Wuxian was looking for. But why was there no memory of Chu Wuxian at all in her memories? You're mine. The smile on Chu Wuxian's face gradually turned a little stubborn. He muttered to himself as he hugged Yiqing Luo tightly in his arms. After a few investigations and a few tests, Wang Chong had no idea what was going on. He finally confirmed that Yiqing Luo was the girl whom he knew that year. At this moment, after he saw that unique birthmark on Yiqing Luo's wrist, he was even more certain. She was indeed the Yiqing Luo whom he was looking for. The Yiqing Luo whom he had promised to marry as his wife. Yiqing Luo's entire body was hurting from his hug as she struggled with all her might and even used her profound qi to attack, but she was unable to struggle free from Zhu Wuxian, who seemed to have fallen into a demonic barrier. She listened to Zhu Wuxin repeat the words "You are mine" over and over again. Yiqing Luo's heart shuddered for no reason. Why do I feel like, such as Zhu Wuxin caused her heart to palpitate? Let me go. Zhu Wuxin. Her struggle made Zhu Wuxian hug her even more tightly. Yiqing Luo, I'm here to keep my promise. After we leave this place, we'll get married. Marriage? Yiqing Luo was completely stunned. Zhu Wuxian, are you King sick? Who wants to marry you? Let me go. His free hand immediately took out the glowing flame fan. She unfurled her glowing flame fan, and 2 silver threads shot out from it, sinking straight into Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. Let go. She snapped a warning. However, Chu Wuxian only gave a dull moan, as he had no intention of letting go of Yiqing Luo. He hugged her tightly. So tightly that Yiqing Luo had no way to make any large-scale movements. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were illuminated by the flames, as it sparkled. Looking at Zhu Wuxian, who had no intention of letting go. She clenched her teeth as she activated the glowing flame fan's silver threads, sinking deeper into Zhu Wuxian's body. Chapter 1499. I won't let go. I won't let go again. Zhu Wuxian's voice was actually trembling slightly. Trembling. Even a person like Chu Wuxin would tremble. Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were gripping the glower flame fan, loosened. Why was he so stubborn? Even if he was pierced by her silver threads, he was unwilling to let go of her. What had happened between them in the past? As a result, Zhu Wuxin's obsession with her had already penetrated deep into his bones. Yiqing Luo, you are destined to be mine. This is the promise we made. Suddenly, Zhu Wuxian's gaze deeply locked onto Yiqing Luo's face. Let's get married. His eyes were clear. It was extremely clear. It didn't contain any impurities. He wanted to marry her. That was his only thought at this moment. This kind of gaze made Yiqing Luo's heart feel slightly cold. Impossible. She rejected him without any hesitation as her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. Zhu Wuxian, no matter what we had in the past, it will only be in the past. The person I love is only DMO Xian, the person I choose will only be DMO Xian. She was DMO Xian's woman. She loved DMO Xian deeply. No matter what happened in the past. The only person she loved and wanted to marry was only DMO Xian. Perhaps it was the mention of the name DMO Xian. Zhu Wuxin's body gradually stiffened. He slowly loosened his grip on Yiqing Luo as he pulled apart the distance between them. Yiqing Luo was delighted, thinking that he had regained his senses. At the next instant, Zhu Wuxian's hand grabbed onto Yiqing Luo's neck. His slender fingers clasped tightly around her neck. His handsome face once again returned to its frozen expression. DMO Xian. A cold voice came out from Zhu Wuxian's mouth. As he spoke, his fingers gradually tightened. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt a suffocating feeling. She reached out and grabbed Zhu Wuxin's wrist, struggling with all her might. You belong to me. You can only be mine. Zhu Wuxin narrowed his eyes, killing intent faintly flashing in them. If you can't keep your promise to me, then I'll use destruction to end everything. The tightness on Yiqing Luo's neck made her even more dizzy. Her hand slid down from Zhu Wuxin's arm. Damn it! Zhu Wuxin really wanted to kill her, this lunatic. Did he want to die with her? Yiqing Luo tried her best to adjust the profound qi in her body, trying to suppress Zhu Wuxian. She did not want to die with Zhu Wuxian like this. The brothers were still waiting for her. Ah Xian was still waiting for her. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo worked hard to concentrate her mind, mobilizing the profound qi in her profound jade heart and communicating with qi. As long as he caught Zhu Wuxin off guard, Qi launched an attack. He would definitely be able to restrain Zhu Wuxin for a while. However, when Yiqing Luo finally mobilized her profound jade heart and spread it over her entire body, relieving the suffocating feeling at her neck. Just as she was about to counterattack, he suddenly felt a dull pain in his heart. Her vision went white. A blurry image suddenly leaped into his mind. That was the 10-year-old little Qing Luo. After a round of beatings by Yi Qingling and Yi Qingqing, she was sick and weak, nesting in the abandoned courtyard full of cobwebs. It was already the middle of winter. Little Qing Luo was only wearing a thin robe and it was extremely worn out, stained with fresh blood. In the room, there was only a wooden bed and a piece of worn-out, smelly thin blanket. She sprawled on the bed and every breath she took would affect the wounds on her body, making her so painful that she couldn't help but draw in a breath of cold air. The cold wind blew in from the broken door and window. Chapter 1500. Her wound was getting more and more painful under the cold wind. Due to hunger, his stomach was growling. Xiaoqing Luo thought that she would have to look for her mother tonight. Just as she was thinking about it, suddenly Xiaoqing Luo heard a heavy object landing on the ground, as though something had rolled in. Xiaoqing Luo got a shock. No, don't hit me, don't, she thought it was Yi Qingqian and the rest who came to look for her again. Xiaoqing Luo curled up and shivered. However, after a long while, the room was quiet, and no one responded. In the howling cold wind, Xiaoqing Luo heard an obvious, breathing sound that was not in sync with her own. That sound was getting heavier and heavier. Xiaoqing Luo clutched the smelly quilt in fear. Little Ziling went to look for something to eat for her. She was the only one in the entire abandoned courtyard. Who could it be that came to her abandoned courtyard? After a moment of silence, Xiaoqing Luo didn't hear any footsteps. Only that heavy breathing sound could be heard. Who is it? She opened her mouth carefully with a trembling voice. No one answered her. And that heavy breathing sound gradually became gentle. Xiao Qing Luo tightened the quilt and endured the pain on her body as she looked towards the direction of the sound. Her abandoned courtyard didn't have any supply of candles. Once night fell, the entire room would be pitch black. Xiao Qing Luo had long been used to this kind of environment. Therefore, she only took a quick glance. She saw a blurry shadow below the window. From the silhouette of the shadow, it should be a person. Why would someone appear in her courtyard? Xiao Qing Luo was filled with fear and doubts. But as a 10-year-old child, no matter how afraid she was, she couldn't resist her curiosity. Moreover, a person appeared in her room. She couldn't be indifferent. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Qing Luo wrapped the quilt and slid down from the bed. The wounds on her body were rubbed by the rough quilt, causing more pain. There was a smell of blood in the air. Extremely thick. Xiao Qing Luo's body was covered with this smell of blood, but she could still feel the thicker smell of blood permeating her room. She endured the pain and walked towards the direction of the shadow. Just as she reached the window and was about to ask who the shadow was, suddenly, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Her small body was pulled by someone and fell into the arms of a thin and weak man. A long sword was placed on her neck. Xiao Qing Luo had never seen such a battle before. Usually, when her sister and the servants bullied her, they never used weapons like swords or knives. Xiao Qing Luo froze, not daring to move recklessly. "Child." A hoarse voice sounded beside his ear, bringing with it a trace of coldness. As he spoke, he panted heavily. Xiao Qing Luo smelled that pungent blood stench from his body. "You're injured." Xiao Qing Luo's nose twitched, even more serious than my injury. The sword that was pressed against her neck loosened. Xiao Qing Luo pursed her lips as her voice was soft and soft. "Were you also bullied by brother and sister, so you hid in my courtyard? Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." The black shadow was silent for a long time. Suddenly he put down the long sword. "Don't move, the smell of blood on your body is very, very heavy. Let me get up, if I press on you, I will bleed even more." Xiao Qing Luo only felt that this person who was worse off than her was even more pitiful than her. Little her immediately had a protective instinct. Chapter 1501. The black shadow obeyed and released her. Little Qing Luo carefully climbed up. The pain from the wound made her mouth continuously let out hissing sounds of pain. Just as she stood up, she didn't have time to speak. She heard a burst of light outside the courtyard. A lot of shadows of torches appeared outside the door. The light from the fire shone through the open window. Little Qing Luo saw the person sitting next to her, covered in blood. That was it could be called a stunning face. The young Qing Luo couldn't think of any adjectives to describe it. But she knew that this face was the most beautiful face she had ever seen. It was even better looking than her brothers and sisters. It was just that the expression on this beautiful face was very scary. When they looked at him, it was as if they were frozen by ice. "Go in and search. Find the assassin for me." A familiar yet strange voice came from outside the courtyard. Little Qing Luo was startled and murmured in surprise and joy, "Father is here." But immediately after, she heard her father's voice, which was obviously full of anger. And that very good-looking person once again used his sword and pressed it against her neck. "That person is your father." The cold voice was fierce and full of killing intent. Little Qing Luo shivered and made a strong "N" sound. The young boy's eyes slightly sunk as he stared at little Qing Luo for a long time. Looking at this little girl living in the abandoned courtyard, her clothes were messy and shabby, her body full of injuries, it was obvious that she wasn't favored in the Yi family. Even if he used her to threaten Yi Tianquang, it would be useless. "Little brother, is father going to catch you?" Little Qing Luo heard the sound of rummaging outside and Yi Tianquang's unceasing furious roars. The young boy's cold eyes were cold as he stared at little Qing Luo's innocent face. His sharp eyes seemed to be thinking whether to kill this little girl or not. The next moment, the little girl stretched out her hand and hugged his arm tightly. "Little brother, hide here, father definitely won't be able to find you." When she used force, the flesh wounds on her body made her grimace in pain. The young boy also noticed those wounds on her body. It was clearly so painful that tears were about to fly out, but she still insisted on supporting him to hide from Yi Tianquang. For some unknown reason, those tearful eyes softened a certain part of the youth's heart. Subconsciously, he propped himself up and followed Xiao Qing Luo towards her direction. She hid him under the plank bed. The house was filled with all kinds of broken wood and straw. No one noticed the young boy hiding inside. The voices outside the courtyard were getting closer and closer. The light from the torch was getting brighter and brighter. Xiao Qing Luo saw the obvious pool of blood under the window. She turned her head and looked at the young boy under the bed. Her clear and beautiful eyes revealed a trace of determination. She bent down and picked up the sword in the boy's hand. "What are you going to do?" The young man's eyes narrowed as he asked vigilantly. But before he could say anything, he heard Xiao Qing Luo moaning in pain. She used the long sword and cut her wrist. Immediately, he stuffed the long sword under the bed. His small body was wrapped in the smelly blanket, and he shrunk back to where the young boy had been sitting. Blood oozed out from Xiao Qing Luo's wrist. It fused with the bloodstains on the ground. She leaned against the window, her little face contorted in pain. In the bottom of the young boy's heart, he didn't know what kind of shock he had. This little girl, was she an idiot? She actually wanted to kill him, a complete stranger, just to save him. Chapter 1502. He looked at the little girl who was curled up on the ground with a face full of pain. At this moment, Zhu Wuxian's heart, which had been sealed away for a long time, was finally filled. He actually felt a trace of warmth. The cold wind rustled, and the wounds on his body ached. But he felt extremely warm. This was the first person in his life who was willing to do anything for him. Bang! With a loud bang, the dilapidated door was violently flung open. The door fell to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. The howling cold wind blew the dried branches and straws in the house all over the floor. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Tianquang choked and violently coughed a few times. The howling cold wind could not blow away the thick smell of blood in the room. Yi Tianquang's expression immediately became grave. "It's in this room. Search." Then, a group of guards and manservants holding torches swarmed into the house. Father, suddenly, a weak and tiny voice entered everyone's ears. Under the illumination of the fire, they saw Xiao Qing Luo wrapped in a thin blanket, trembling all over. Beneath her was a pool of blood. "What's wrong with you?" When Yi Tianquang saw the scarred Qing Luo, there wasn't a trace of fatherly love in his eyes. On the contrary, he frowned with extreme disgust. He waved his hand, signaling for the guards and servants to leave. "In any case, you're the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect. If people see you in this state, wouldn't they laugh at our Three Springs sect's incompetence?" Yi Tianquang walked forward in annoyance. He directly extended his hand and pulled little Qing Luo up from the ground. The thin quilt was stinky and tainted with the smell of blood. This caused Yi Tianquang's brows to wrinkle even tighter, and he directly flung away that piece of quilt. Little Qing Luo's frail body was revealed. She was injured all over, and the blood on her wrist was still gushing out. His entire body was freezing cold, and his wounds, big and small, were already festering. Yi Tianquang threw Xiao Qing Luo to the ground in disgust. This room, apart from you, has anyone else entered? No, no. Xiao Qing Luo curled up on the ground in pain, her eyes filled with tears. She ached all over. But he didn't dare to shout half a sentence in front of Yi Tianquang. Because she knew that her father hated her very much. Her sisters bullied her. If she complained to her father, the one who would be punished would be her. Useless thing. Yi Tianquang lightly snorted. After that, his gaze swept through the entire room, and after confirming that there were no other auras, he turned around and walked out of the room. In Yi Tianquang's heart, this useless, cowardly and incompetent daughter absolutely didn't have the guts to lie to him. The noise outside the courtyard gradually subsided. Xiao Qing Luo then tried her best to shift her body as she asked softly, "Are you all right?" There was no response from under the bed. Xiao Qing Luo started to panic. Could it be that the action of pushing you to the bottom of the bed caused your wound to open up? "Little brother, wait for me, I'll go over now." Saying that, Xiao Qing Luo couldn't be bothered about her injuries as she tried her best to stand up and walk towards the direction of the little wooden bed. She walked unsteadily. With every step he took, his entire body ached. She couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After taking a few steps, a cold voice came from under the bed, "Enough, I'm fine. Don't come any closer." His voice was somewhat hoarse, and he coughed a few times from time to time. Hearing the little youth's voice, Xiao Qing Luo finally let out a sigh of relief. "Little brother, it's good that you're all right." As she spoke, she still tried her best to move towards the bottom of the bed. Chapter 1503. The young boy's aura suddenly froze. A murderous aura burst out from his body. One hand held the long sword at the side. "Little brother, don't be afraid. This is the footsteps of my servant girl." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a small figure limping over from the door. When he saw the door that had fallen to the ground, a trace of astonishment appeared on his pale and thin face. "Miss, are you okay?" Little Ziling rushed to Qing Luo's side and her eyes turned red when she saw Qing Luo covered in blood. "I'm fine." Qing Luo shook her head and touched little Ziling's head. "Ling, help me lift the little brother out from under the bed. He's seriously injured." "Little brother." Little Ziling was puzzled. When she saw the strange young boy under the bed, Ziling exclaimed in surprise. Before she could speak, Qing Luo covered her mouth tightly. "Shoo, don't shout. Father just brought people to chase little brother." "Miss, what are you doing?" "The master is chasing him, how can you?" Little Ziling looked at the young boy under the bed and immediately persuaded her, "Mississippi, miss, if we hand him over now, the master will definitely find someone to look at your injuries." "No." Qing Luo shook her head stubbornly and the expression on her face became serious. "I promised to help little brother, so I must help him." Knowing that she couldn't win against her miss, little Ziling had to help Qing Luo and lifted the young boy out from under the bed. After a long while, the two little girls helped the young boy to lie down on the bed. Qing Luo grabbed the thin quilt on the ground and covered the young boy. Seeing the young boy's frown, she lowered her eyes in embarrassment. "Little brother, I'm sorry, I only have this quilt. The weather is cold and we don't have a door, please make do with it." The young boy's frown deepened. When he saw the disappointment and guilt in Qing Luo's eyes, something seemed to tremble in his heart. Almost subconsciously, he blurted out, "What about you?" Qing Luo was startled and immediately raised a big smile. "I'm not cold, it's okay." The cold wind was bleak and Qing Luo was also covered with wounds. The thin robe on his body could not withstand the cold at all. He was clearly shivering from the cold, and even his voice was trembling. However, she still covered him with the only blanket that could keep him warm. This little girl was really silly. The young boy stared at that smiling face without blinking. He was used to fighting openly and covertly, as well as conspiracies and plots. Little Qing Luo's innocence easily touched a certain part of the young man's heart. "You come up to the bed too," the young boy said calmly. Xiao Qing Luo's eyes widened as she shook her head vigorously. "The adults all say that there are differences between males and females. If we sleep on the same bed, we will get married in the future. You're still a child. When you grow up, you won't be able to sleep on the same bed with a man," the young boy said with rare patience. Xiao Qing Luo hesitated for a moment. Perhaps it was because it was too cold. She crawled onto the bed timidly. "Miss, this is the steamed bun we just got from 8th young master. You haven't eaten all day, eat something before you sleep." Little Ziling limped to the bedside and carefully took out the steamed bun from her arms. The steamed bun was already cold and a little hard. But to Qing Luo, it was already very good food. Chapter 1504. Little brother, are you hungry? Little Qing Luo took the steamed bun but didn't eat it immediately. Instead, she leaned over to the young boy and asked softly. The young boy glanced at the cold hard steamed bun and frowned. "Do you eat this every day?" If he didn't hear it wrong. Didn't Yi Tian Kuang just say that this girl was the young matriarch of Three Springs sect? A dignified young matriarch living in such a place and eating this kind of steamed bun. Little Qing Luo blinked her watery eyes and pinched a small piece of the cold hard steamed bun and sent it to the young boy's mouth. "Not every day. These are secretly left for me by little you. Sometimes I can't even eat them." The steamed bun was stained with blood from little Qing Luo's fingers. He frowned and wanted to turn his head away. But, when he saw that pair of pure beautiful eyes, his mouth opened subconsciously. The steamed bun mixed with little Qing Luo's blood entered his mouth. Seeing him eat it, little Qing Luo's face showed a big smile. Until half of the steamed bun was eaten. The young boy came back to his senses and looked away. "I'm not eating anymore." Little Qing Luo didn't force him. She threw the steamed bun that had brushed past the young boy's mouth into her own mouth without any hesitation. It was just a very ordinary action. But the young boy's heart inexplicably accelerated. This feeling made him extremely helpless. This was just a 10-year-old girl. He would actually feel shy. The young boy's heart was complicated. Little Qing Luo didn't notice. She divided the remaining half of the steamed bun into half and handed it to little Ziling. "Ling, you must be hungry. Let's eat together." She kept staring at her miss as she gave the steamed bun to a stranger she didn't know. Ziling's heart was actually against it. But looking at her miss feeding him so happily, little Ziling suppressed the displeasure in her heart. Her young miss was too kind. That was why she suffered all kinds of bullying in the Yi family. Looking at the half-steamed bun that little Qing Luo handed over, little Ziling endured the hunger in her stomach and shook her head. "Miss, I'm not hungry. You should eat quickly. Just eat when I tell you to. Every time you say you're not hungry, your stomach is obviously growling." Little Qing Luo couldn't help but put the steamed bun into little Ziling's hand. Then, he wolfed down the rest of the steamed bun. Little Ziling retreated to another corner of the room, where she slept. The thin quilt was too small, and it could only accommodate 2 of them at most. Little Qing Luo also couldn't call little Ziling to the bed, so her little body curled up beside the young boy. Gradually, Xiao Qing Luo leaned on the young man and fell into a deep sleep. In the night, the young boy's tightly shut eyes opened. He glanced sideways at the beautiful girl nestled in his arms. No matter how cold the wind was, it blew. His heart did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. On the contrary, it was a scorching heat that burned in his heart. An indescribable and unfamiliar feeling gradually sprouted from the bottom of his heart. The next day, Yi Tian Kuang sent an old doctor to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. The old doctor often came to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. He didn't have much respect for this unfavored young matriarch. After he came, he didn't even check his pulse. He threw a few bags of medicinal herbs at the entrance of the courtyard and left. Anyway, this unfavored young sect master had only suffered superficial injuries from the other few young ladies. Chapter 1505. Little Ziling picked up a few packets of medicine at the door and cursed the old doctor in a low voice. But she still picked up the medicine packets like they were treasures and brought them back to the room. Little Qing Luo used cold water to clean the wounds on her body. At this moment, she was cleaning the young boy's wounds. Seeing those packets of medicine, she quickly ordered little Ziling to boil the medicine. "Little brother, there's medicine, your injuries can definitely be cured." Little Qing Luo carefully wiped the knife and arrow wounds on the young boy's body. "Medicine." The young boy frowned and looked at the big and small packets of medicine. "Little brother, don't worry, those medicines are definitely for treating external injuries. I often use them, and after using them, the injuries on my body are already healed." Little Qing Luo hurriedly explained, "Little brother, these injuries on your body should also be caused by being beaten by others. They can definitely be cured." The young boy recalled the way Yi Tian Kuang looked at little Qing Luo last night. It was not like the way he looked at his daughter. Moreover, he obviously knew that his daughter was often bullied. Yi Tian Kuang did not stop him. Instead, he sent over medicinal ingredients. When little Ziling brought over the medicine in a broken bowl, the young boy sniffed it. This was indeed medicine for treating external and internal injuries. And the medicine applied on his body was also used to heal wounds. He hadn't done anything to it. Looking at little Qing Luo, who was squatting beside him with shining eyes and carefully holding the medicinal soup. In the end, he did not refuse little Qing Luo's good intentions. He needed to recover his body as soon as possible. Although these medicines did not have much effect, but at least they could speed up the recovery of his body. Otherwise, once Yi Tian Kuang found traces of him, he would not have the strength to resist. Moreover, if he continued to stay in this shabby place, he would not freeze to death. He was afraid that his wounds would be infected and fester to death. More importantly, after he recovered, he could quickly heal little Qing Luo's injuries. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The young boy's physique was special. In addition, all the medicinal herbs were used on his body. The young boy's body had already recovered by 70 to 80%. He could leave at any time. But every time he opened his eyes and saw the girl nestled in his arms, he actually gave birth to a feeling of reluctance to leave. Didn't want to leave the little girl who brought him happiness. Don't want to lose the smile on her face. In his mind, it was like a demonic barrier, as Xiao Qing Luo's voice and her clear smile kept reverberating. "Little big brother, today's steamed buns are not hard. Have a taste. Little big brother, your wounds are recovering really fast, much faster than mine. Little big brother, you are so beautiful. My big sister and third sister are not even half as beautiful as you. Little big brother," she called out to him again and again. For the first time in his life, the young boy felt extremely needed. As a result, he continued to pretend to be heavily injured, forgetting about his mission and the purpose of his appearance at the Three Springs sect. Only staying by Xiao Qing Luo's side, watching her take care of herself, listening to her words in his ear, he did not stop. All of a sudden, he wanted time to stop at this moment forever. After the 3rd day, Little Qing Luo would discover, the wooden door of the dilapidated house was inexplicably repaired. Furthermore, it was fixed so securely that not even the slightest bit of cold wind could enter. The small wooden bed was also padded with a thick blanket and replaced with a wide, extremely warm quilt. Even the place where little Ziling slept was built with a wooden bed. After that, they could eat hot meals every day, and there were bags of food that could be stored for a few months under the bed. Chapter 1506. What made Xiaoqing Luo most astonished was, every morning when I wake up, the wounds on her body gradually healed. The suppurated area had scabbed over. The scars also gradually faded away. She was full of doubts, but she knew that all of this must have been done by the young boy who was gradually able to get out of bed and would occasionally practice his sword in the abandoned courtyard. But she didn't dare to ask. He was afraid that the moment he opened his mouth, everything would become a dream. This dream had been going on for nearly half a month. She did not want to wake up from this dream. Yi Qing Luo. In the courtyard, the young man's icy cold voice was heard, interrupting Xiaoqing Luo's deep thoughts. Hearing his voice, Xiaoqing Luo immediately raised her head, smiling like a flower as she jogged forward. Little brother. He opened his arms and embraced the little girl. They had only known each other for half a month. However, the atmosphere between the two of them seemed to have experienced several years of feelings. The young boy could feel it clearly. The little girl in his arms occupied an extremely important position in his heart. But he had his own mission. Before the mission was completed, before he had enough power to protect this girl, he could not drag her into his world. Yi Qing Luo, I'm leaving. His voice was very calm. He gently hugged the little girl's hand, but he increased his strength. Xiaoqing Luo was stunned. She knew that her little brother would eventually leave. He just didn't expect everything to happen so quickly. This was the first time that other than Ziling and Xiaoyu, he was the person who treated her the best. Wait for me here. The young man lowered his head as his cold eyes locked onto Xiaoqing Luo. Wait for me to pick you up. Xiaoqing Luo buried her head in his arms and shook her head. Her small hand circled his waist tightly. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to see her little brother again. She did not know how much longer she could live in the Three Springs sect. He seemed to have seen through the worries in her heart. The young boy gently stroked her head. Yi Tianquang won't let you die. I will return as soon as possible. Rather than bringing little Qing Luo away now, it would be better to let her stay in the Three Springs sect. He had investigated the Three Springs sect. Although Yi Tianquang loathed Xiaoqing Luo to the extreme, but he would absolutely not let Xiaoqing Luo's life be in any danger. And, following him, he was unable to guarantee that he could protect Qing Luo anytime and anywhere. If they were not careful, what awaited them? It was death. That night, the young boy still left. Before he left, he carried Xiaoqing Luo as he whispered into her ear word by word, remember my name, I'm Zhu Wu Axan. Chu. Wu, Axan, Xiaoqing Luo repeated his name word by word. His warm kiss landed on Xiaoqing Luo's forehead. When I return, I will marry you. Are you willing to be my bride? At this moment, Zhu Wu Axan had to admit it. He was moved by this 10-year-old girl. Her clarity, her beauty. It completely dispelled the darkness in his heart. Captured everything in him. Xiaoqing Luo raised her head, looked at him and nodded her head vigorously. I'm willing. Memories flashed in his mind. All the images stopped at the last scene. Her smile was like a flower, and her eyes were firm as she said, I do. Then, it was this body, Xiaoqing Luo's memory. It was a memory that had been sealed in the depths of this body's heart for some reason. under Zhu Wuxin's relentless attacks. This memory was released in the end. As expected, it was the relationship between the Yi Qing Luo before she transmigrated, the owner of this body, and Zhu Wuxin. So deep. Hardworking. Chapter 1507. However, how should she tell Zhu Wuxin? The soul of the person he had been searching for was no longer in this world. Zhu Wuxin's gaze was fixed on Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was in a trance as her gaze kept changing. Then, he saw a flash of pain in her eyes. His ice-cold eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light. You remember. Just now, when Yi Qing Luo was in a trance, that instant gaze. All of a sudden, he felt as if his heart had been violently touched. He would never forget that look. The former Qing Luo had used this kind of gaze to capture his heart, touching the softness in the depths of his heart. The hand which was locked on Yi Qing Luo's neck slowly loosened. His cold eyes were gradually tainted with a sliver of infatuation. Both his hands suddenly hugged Yi Qing Luo's shoulders tightly. Yi Qing Luo, I've said this before, you're the person I'm looking for, you finally remembered. For the promise he had made with Yi Qing Luo previously. In the past few years, he had been working hard to become stronger, and had used all kinds of methods to expand his faction. For Yi Qing Luo. He had even thrown his original intention of becoming stronger to the back of his mind. He couldn't bear for Yi Qing Luo to stay in Three Springs sect and suffer. Every time he recalled the first time he met Yi Qing Luo, she was covered in injuries. Zhu Wuxin's heart was filled with pain. But all these years, he didn't dare to head over to the Three Springs sect or secretly inquire about Yi Qing Luo's news. Everything about him. They were all in the line of sight of others. If he wanted Yi Qing Luo to live on safely, he must completely isolate himself from Yi Qing Luo. Until he finally took control of Death God Castle. Then, he finally built his own force. Until he met Yi Qing Luo once again. Just when he wasn't 100% sure that he could bring Yi Qing Luo to his side. Meeting Yi Qing Luo. This Yi Qing Luo who would have stayed in the Three Springs sect to be bullied. He appeared in his world. That was the freshman training ground of the Heavenly Academy. His reunion with her. He was filled with excitement. Unable to restrain his gaze, he fixed it on her. After 5 years, she was completely different from the person in his memories. The way she looked at him was also extremely strange. This made Zhu Wuxin panic. He wanted to ascertain if this Yi Qing Luo was really the Yi Qing Luo who called him little brother. He purposely sent someone to deliver medicine to her. He intentionally told his name to Yi Qing Luo. However, she was still completely unperturbed. It was as if he could not recall who this so-called young Master Zhu was. After that, the entire Three Springs city was filled with astonishing rumors regarding the seventh miss of the Yi family, Yi Qing Luo. Her transformation surprised everyone. She was no longer the cowardly and humiliated seventh young mistress. But that, he possessed swift and fierce skills, an awe-inspiring aura, and was able to kill his sister in an instant. He was above everyone else, the queen. That's right, the queen. The rumored Yi Qing Luo, in other people's eyes, was like a queen that no one could blaspheme. Following that, he heard the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and the overlord. That ambiguous and inseparable relationship. The next time they met was in the Death God Castle. She had brought her students to do a mission. In the end, he couldn't control himself and took the initiative to acknowledge her. But, she had really forgotten who he was. Her eyes were no longer as pure and sweet as when they first met. Chapter 1508. Probing time and time again. Trying to make her recall his name time and time again. But what she got in return was disappointment time and time again. Yi-Ching Luo couldn't remember herself. She didn't lose her memories, but in her memories, there was no existence of him at all. She remembered everything. She only forgot about him. Hearing Zhu Wuxian's voice, which was filled with shock, and that tone, the arms which were hugging her tightly became tighter and tighter. Yi-Ching Luo was unable to harden her heart to struggle out of his embrace. The person Zhu Wuxian was looking for was her, but also not her. After all, she had let him down. Yi-Ching Luo and Zhu Wuxian's past relationship. The man who was hugging her was breathing heavily and hurriedly, as he kept muttering her name. The current Zhu Wuxian. Where was the usual cold, heartless and aloof look? Love was enough to change heaven and earth. Even the heartless Zhu Wuxian would also reveal such an expression. Like Dmo Xian, noble and elegant in front of outsiders, unattainable. But in front of her, he was just a barbaric and overbearing man. Thinking of Dmo Xian, Yi-Ching Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly as she pulled herself back from the guilt towards Zhu Wuxian. I have indeed recalled. She gently nudged Zhu Wuxian. Hearing her admission, the joy on Zhu Wuxian's face grew even thicker. He then let go of Yi-Ching Luo as his hands rested on her shoulders. I know, you will not forget me, and will not forget the agreement between us. This was the first lady who moved his heart. And the last lady who made him want to protect his entire life. Yi-Ching Luo, it's been 5 years. I'm back. After we leave the blazing flame nest, let's get married, alright? Zhu Wuxian's eyes didn't contain any coldness. But it was filled with hope as he looked at her expression. Extremely anxiously waiting for Yi-Ching Luo's answer. That careful and extremely apprehensive look. It made Yi-Ching Luo's heart ache faintly. She clenched her fists tightly as she sighed once again. Don't worry, this time, I will absolutely not abandon you. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have thought of something as his eyes looked firmly at Yi-Ching Luo. I will accompany you every day, you can go wherever you want. Master Zhu. Yi-Ching Luo raised her hand and slapped away the hand which was on her shoulder. This form of address came out from Yi-Ching Luo's mouth. The excited Zhu Wuxian's smile gradually froze. His cold eyes were once again filled with coldness. This form of address clearly expressed Yi-Ching Luo's attitude. His hand slid down from Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder. His slender body took a few steps back. He staggered a little. He stabilized his footsteps and stared at Yi-Ching Luo's calm face. Neither of them opened their mouths to break the strange silence. After a while, Zhu Wuxian burst out laughing. That laughter was mixed with an extremely clear pain. Ha ha ha. Young Master Chu. When you think of me, you still call me young Master Zhu. He smiled, his cold eyes filled with pain. In the past, you always called me little big brother, but now, you won't even call me by my name. He's smiling. Her expression was still calm. Only her eyes, which were as calm as still water, were fluttering incessantly, revealing her flustered emotions at this moment. Chapter 1509. It wasn't that she was cold-blooded and heartless. It wasn't that she didn't care about Zhu Wuxian's feelings and forcefully rejected his feelings towards her. But feelings shouldn't be dragged around in the first place. If she gave Zhu Wuxian hope, that was the real cruelty towards Zhu Wuxian. Just one sentence and you want to erase everything that happened between us. Zhu Wuxian gave a low laugh as his pair of cold eyes started to turn red. The veins on his handsome face started to pop out. He was restraining his own emotions. Restraining his urge to kill someone. Then young Master Zhu. What do you want? Yi-Ching Luo asked calmly. Following that, she continued, I don't know why, the memory of you when I was 10 years old has been completely forgotten. But, forget is forget. Perhaps, this is the predestined ending between you and me. What do I want? Chu Wu Axian suddenly raised his voice as he howled in a low voice, "You're asking me what I want. Don't tell me you're not clear about what I want, don't you understand?" His arms, once again locked onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulders. "It's easy for you to say it, forget it and forget it. Just one sentence and you're trying to get rid of me who has been thinking about you for 5 years. Yi Qing Luo had nothing to reply to his question. She wasn't the Yi Qing Luo when she was 10 years old. They had also never personally experienced the beautiful memories that Chu Wuxin had shared with them. She couldn't possibly recall the memories with Chu Wuaxian. So she abandoned Dmo Xian and chose Chu Wuaxian instead. The person she liked was only Dmo Xian. "You want to abide by the agreement 5 years ago, to marry me." She looked into his eyes as she calmly told him what he was thinking about. Yi Qing Luo was so calm that even she herself found it scary. "I'm not using a sentence of forget to get rid of you, but the relationship between us is only fixed at 5 years ago, on that night when you left." Yi Qing Luo spoke seriously, "Young Master Zhu, before I had that memory, the person I loved was Dmo Xian. Even though I've regained that memory, it won't change my love for Dmo Xian. For all eternity, I will only follow Dmo Xian, do you understand what I mean?" He understood. How could he possibly not understand? Generation after generation, it also foretold that every day and every moment in her future belonged to Dmo Xian. Even in her next life, she would still choose Dmo Xian. She was persuading him to give up on her. However, giving up was easier said than done. If he could give up so easily, then, he wouldn't have been so stubborn for 5 years. "I don't understand. Yi Qing Luo, I don't understand." Zhu Wuaxian's voice was hoarse as he shook his head slowly. The pair of hands which locked onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulders gradually increased their strength. Yi Qing Luo frowned in pain. Staring at Chu Wuxin's expressionless face, he felt a chill in his heart. She tried to struggle. But Chu Wuxin's hands clenched even tighter. His fingers felt like they were going to sink into her flesh. She frowned in pain. Just as she was about to break free from him, suddenly, he felt something tighten around his waist. A strong force gripped her waist and pulled her back. Her back bumped into a warm chest. A mellow voice which was like fine wine rang beside her ears, as cold as ice. "It doesn't matter if you understand or not. Anyway, Lil Luo, is this Lord's woman, you have no right to lay a finger on her." A strong and majestic aura exploded at this instant. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.